Hey everybody, welcome to BuildFlyGo. So this is part B of our Tanis system install. We're here with Dirk and Matthew. Thank you again. Thanks for coming. Thanks for helping us do the install. And of course, thanks for the equipment and the sponsorship. We really appreciate it. So we have installed, you've seen the other video, the heating elements are all in. I am down a videographer today, so it's just me. Sorry for the shaky cam. The heating elements are all in, and we're going to install the wiring. We're going to route it all properly for the RV-10 and the 540. Of course, this would match, a usual 540. It doesn't have to be for an RV-10, but this is what we're doing. We're also going to be looking at the cabin heat system, which has a thermostat, a wiring harness, and the heater. Thank you. We're going to install that. We're going to find a good spot for it on the RV-10, or we might make it portable so that we can move it from one aircraft to another. So a quick look at what we did last time. The two elements are on the case, one on the oil pan and one on the case up here. Notice how it's in sort of a curved section, but it still conforms really nice, right? It's a sort of a flexible element, and the silicone that they ship, really holds it in place really nice. And the 100-mile-an-hour tape that we used, that aluminum sticky tape, really did a nice job of holding it. Really clean install. And the elements are also here, and we're going to be handling all of the wire runs for this today.
So today we're going to be doing the wiring harness and connecting all those elements that we put on it. And you'll see the wiring harness comes in two halves. We have the power half, is the way I like to look at it.
Oops.
And that is just simply the side that has the circuit protection. So the power is coming into this and being distributed by this junction. Everything's in parallel, so it really doesn't matter which lead is going to be powering which element. Just like a receptacle in the wall in your house, you can plug a light in or a saw or a drill into any one of those, and it has the same power output. You'll notice that these junctions, we use them as terminal blocks. Have the circuit right on the end of it, so how it's divided. What powers the other half of it isn't plugging these into each other. It's just taking this lead here with the pins and plugging it into any one of the output leads on the other side. And we'll be situating this accordingly for the engine installation we want, and leading these and routing them to the individual elements, choosing which lead fits best for the application. So now what we're doing is we're taking each half of the harness, which is real simple. You get the power lead over here because it plugs on the left side of the engine. We're just going to kind of dangle this in here with the lower ignition leads on this Continental, on this Lycoming, and just follow them real simply and kind of figure out where they're going to lie and how it's going to work best. Since this is the power lead with the ground, we're going to be routing that through the baffling. We'll just get that out of the way for now. And then each one of the ignition leads, we're just going to pick the one that routes best. It looks like we'll be able to reach the other harness lead with the short one. And then we just follow that around behind the mags, and then just kind of loosely lay these next to where the elements are going to go. And here we got this one for the front cylinder there, and then we've got one for the sump.
So it did turn out that we mounted that pad in the wrong orientation. The pad's electrical conduit should have been going out facing towards the pilot side instead of the co-pilot side. Now, this gives us an opportunity, actually, because we get to show how you can reconfigure the wiring in the Tanis system. So that's what's coming up next. We're going to open up the harness and move one of the leads from the left side to the right side.
We're going to take the lead, because these pads are both aimed this way. We didn't put them on and install them for the routing, my fault.
Would it be good to have?
So what we're going to do is we're going to take the long lead off of the side that we were going to put on the left side of the engine. We're going to take it out of that power junction, depin it, and we're going to then put it in here because it's actually a location for another lead in this other junction.
So I like that there's this flexibility in the system, right? So it'll fit an engine that isn't exactly like this, because you can depin some of the connections and move them around so that the right links are in the right spot.
Yeah, normally you wouldn't have to, and in this case, for the routing, it's worth it to take the extra time. This was designed so that if we have an engine with more mass, or you're working in really extreme climate. Maybe you need a additional element on an oil cooler, or you've got a geared engine and you want to heat that gearbox. You're up in Alaska, it's extreme cold, and we've got the ability to add another element, so we have a little more energy to put into that case.
So this is just a circuit block that parallelizes everything.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Look, if you were to pop this cap off, they're glued on, so don't pop them off. Looks like little spiders dropped on each side. And then that's what the circuitry is. So it's divided in half. So you have the load side, the hot side, and then you have the uneven load, or the neutral side. So the white wire goes on one side, and all the black wires go on the other side. And that's how we divide it up, and we have a system that works in parallel AC. So to pull these out, they have a little clip system right down on the side here that's inside. So you just take your screwdriver and wedge it down on the side here, and that'll pop out. Just be careful not to wedge it too much, because I've seen these get wedged enough to where they break off. The idea is just to wiggle the screwdriver in there, and suddenly it'll almost magically pop right off. And then when we go to pin this, we're going to take the longest one and move it to the other side. All you have to do is put a little tension on the wire at the same time as you release the little tab down inside, and it'll pop out of there. The other wire here, where is it? There it is. And we just depin it like that.
To put in their contacts, all you have to do is kind of push it in until you hear the click. Right there, give a little tug, make sure it's all nice and secure. And you do that with the other wire. Put it in, give a little tug, it's nice and secure. Make sure they're all the way up front, and then you can put your clip in.
Essentially what we've done here now is we figured out the basic routing for it. We just take those junctions and we mount them, loosely hang them right now, on the ignition leads near the magnetos. And then we just follow them forward. So that's what we're doing now. We did the same thing on the other side. We have an idea of where we want them to go. We've interconnected them with the appropriate leads. And it's time to start securing things. Secure them from the elements back, and keep walking yourself back to each one of the junctions. And once we get to the junction, then we can racetrack any extra wire we have and make the installation look real neat. May look like an octopus when you start, with tentacles all over, but by the time you're done, it'll straighten everything out.
Talk about the fact that I put underneath the...
What Matthew's doing here in this case is he ran it underneath the latch to secure it instead of over the top, which I've seen a few installations like that. And we may want to slide that just a little bit over there, and then put another lead here to secure the wire.
I'm not pulling the cable ties all the way tight until I know exactly where things are going to be. I'm trying to have it tight enough to hold it where I think it should go. So then I'm going to go pull this next lead, which will be the next longest lead. Make sure it's ran nicely and untangled from this junction, and that's going to follow.
You know, there's two people that are going to care about it being run nicely, right? Me and a Oshkosh judge. The only two people.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it, make sure it's ran behind everything. I'm going to go ahead and connect these things. And like you said, I'm going to run it behind this cable tie, and that just makes sure that it's secure, doesn't slide back and slide off of your zip tie, and it just tries to make things a little bit more secure. So I'm going to take both of these leads, the one that we inserted into the junction and the one that already existed, and we're going to route it along the harness until we reach this scupper tube, which does two things. One, this engine doesn't have exhausts on it yet, so we can't quite visualize, but I know if we mount it along the scupper tube, we'll have plenty of space. And we're going to run them together up front here, which will later be secured to baffling or alternator wiring as he continues to install onto his engine.
There's going to be an Adele clamp right here that's going to support the alternator wiring, so we will also support that when we're at it.
So we'll go ahead and connect these up just so that way we know how much length we have as we continue to button up the rest of this system. So now we have all the connectors secured, and now we can kind of start to clean up the wiring. Generally, it's good to work from front to back, so we're going to pull all of our extra wiring towards this junction, and so we have it all nice and neat.
All right, so the wiring is done. You'll notice the plug is wired in. We decided to keep it here. It doesn't really fit on the front. You'll see some aircraft have the plug on the front on the baffles, but we didn't really have the room for it. But here is super common as well. On the RV-9, I have it also on the dipstick. It's on the dipstick over there, but same idea. So wiring comes back over here, nicely secured. It looks really sort of rat's nesty in here. That is not, it's because I've got some temporary wiring, right? Like for some of the sensors and things like that. But the wiring that they did for the engine heat is nicely secured, right? Like we can see it over here. There's a fuse block for it right there. And then it's following the spark plug wires. So it's just attached to the spark plug wires. You can see the connectors for each one, and then just going in to the heat elements. On the back, it's following the spark plug wires again. Again, sorry for my loose wiring. Spark plug wires again to go across, and the same thing. Following over here, and then underneath, I still have this loose because there's going to be an Adele clamp here once I have the alternator in place and once the baffles are locked in. But you can see that it will nicely get secured right there. And we also have the cabin heater. So the cabin heater is connected into the system as well. It's connected separately with its own fuse to the plug. And in here, so I wanted to keep it I guess not permanently mounted. So there is a thermostat up there that is permanently mounted, and this is connected to the thermostat. And this way, the cabin heat box can exit the airplane in the summer, right? I don't need to carry it around. I think it's a pound or two that I don't need to find a permanent spot for. So the idea is this gets plugged in. It just gets plugged into the little end of the wire right there. It's a Deutsche connector again, so super convenient. It gets plugged in the winter when the airplane is in the hangar or when the airplane needs heat, and you just unplug it to go flying, just leave it in the hangar or whatnot. So super simple, great system. You know, there's like just little feet on the bottom there to keep it off of the ground, and it'll just sit on top of the carpet, and the thermostat in there will, you know, help the cabin stay at a temperature that we're good with. Okay, so we're just gonna do the system check, it out, make sure everything looks good per the installation manual, right? Before plugging everything in. Super simple, just a regular multimeter, right? Like you don't need any special tools. You already have this.
No, we just use a simple ohm meter. What we do is we don't want to plug anything in with power until we checked it with the ohm meter. So we have a systems check in the system or in the instructions to go through. So we turn our ohm meter on here. We're just going to make sure that we've got a ground. So this is a ground pin here. And our ground, of course, is attached to the engine, and then we have an OEM ground strap, engine to airframe. So we'll just use that for our own check. So we do have a direct circuit going through our ground. Now we can take and check that our system isn't grounded, bad elements, something like that, or we screwed up wiring our plug. We don't get any ohm reading there. We don't get any ohm reading there. It's an open circuit. So now we're going to take and measure the ohms of the entire system. We don't have a closed circuit. We have an ohm reading because it's resistance elements. So we'll take the other end here and we'll hook it on the blades. And then we're going to select the right setting on our ohm meter. We want an ohm reading. Now, we got 16.7. That's because the cabin heater is still plugged in. We're looking
that's true.
for 28.8 ohms.
Yep, you want to unplug the cabin heater?
Plug the cabin heater.
So if you get this at home, you know, don't panic.
So our nominal in a 70-degree room with the perfect elements, it'd be 28.8. We're reading 28.4. We need to be plus or minus 10%. So we're perfect on the system. So now we know we can hook it up. Go ahead and plug the cabin heater back in, and we know also we don't have a short in the cabin heater circuit as well, because we're getting an ohm reading change. So now we can simply hook the system in and the light should come on and it should start heating.
Well,
Imagine that.
the light works. So down here,
You're going to want to test with the back of your hand because these elements get really hot really quickly. You don't want to burn yourself like I almost did. So you just use the back of your hand.
oh yeah, right away.
And then you're going to feel near the threaded elements to see if it's starting to get warm.
Sure.
So you'll go around and you can check that way.
Yeah.
The cabin heater is really simple. You know, is it on? The only thing that might change is if you're in a heated hangar with that thermostat, it may not turn on. So
That was warm.
I made sure that it was turned way up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn this thermostat down, and in the heated hangar, it should turn off.
Yep, there it goes.
So I
You could
turned
hear it
down
spin
and
down.
turned it off.
Okay. So this is it. This guy's done. Thank you both very much.
Excellent.
All right, folks. Super simple install. I mean, it took, I realized they were here and they have done hundreds of these already, but you can tell that it is something that you can do in a day, right? Like there's not a ton of planning. There's not a lot of decision making, right? You know where to mount the elements. You know where things should go. The wire routing is simple. Just follow the spark plugs and and off you go.
So a typical installation, granted we've got the cowl off of this already.
Sure.
Typical installation we say with the cowl off takes 2 to 5 hours.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Okay. Well, more to come. Thanks for watching, and we'll see everybody soon.